we watch this scene on mute, people should know it's funny. And that sort of that became our stylistic rule for creating everything.
We get one chance to fix it.
BenDavid, congratulations on this film. It is so much fun. It really caught me off guard by the mix of genre and blends. But this movie juggles a mob story, a buddy comedy, romance, time travel, which is a pretty wild mix. But for you, what's the key to making sure all those tones work together instead of competing with each other?
I mean, if you strip all of that stuff away, it's just a movie about a couple people, their emotional conflicts, and are they going to survive the night? You know, because it's like I love kind of a subgenre of movies, which is like the one night gone wrong movie, where like
Yes.
the whole movie takes place in one night. And I think making it that, and then having it just to be about these people, will their emotional stuff get resolved? Will they make it to the end of the night alive? Will they make it to the night with like repaired friendships? And then all that other stuff is just the fun shit on top of it. You know, it's like that is kind of the North Star of it, is as long as it's still about this friendship gone wrong, this marriage gone wrong, and then, you know, the future version of the guy trying to rehabilitate the younger version of his guy. Like those are the things that matter. And the other stuff is just the fun things with it.
I love that, because you're totally right. At the movie's core, it's really about a friendship that kind of breaks down over one night. I want to talk about Mike for a second, because he's such a fun character. He feels like a real threat, but also somebody you'd actually buy at the center of a love story. Talk to me. What is it about James that you feel like he could pull off both sides? Because I think James Marsden is incredible.
James can do anything.
Yes, he can.
I love that guy. And the epiphany I had is both interesting and then also kind of silly, which is first when the idea of him came up, I thought, you know, I need someone who can be a really likable romantic lead and someone who can be a badass. And there's actually a very short list of guys who can do that and be the same character. Because that's complicated, because those things could seem like contradictory. But I felt like he's a guy who could be kind of a lovable, charming, romantic guy, and then also do insane action. But also he had never done action like that. But the reason I realized he could was because I watched Hairspray on an airplane, and I was watching like the scenes where he was dancing, doing choreography, and I'm like, okay, I personally think all choreography is the same, whether it's a musical or an action scene. And when I met with him, he was like, well, I've never, you know, done like these big, complicated, like sort of fight scenes and shootouts. And I said, you're just doing Hairspray again, man. It's just like, if as long as you learn the choreography, it'll be great. And he was like, he totally understood that, and then spent a lot of time learning all of the fight scenes and the shootouts, and it shows. I mean, he's so efficient, and he does like the funnier stuff, and also in the finale, the really cool stuff, and he just really committed to the bit.
Yeah, you really do believe that he's a quick draw, Mike. Now, what I find so fun about Vince playing both present day Nick and future Nick, it gives the movie something really entertaining, but it's also a little bit more human, because in this weird way, it's kind of him confronting himself. This duality, is that duality something that really hooked you?
I mean, yeah, I really wanted the movie to be kind of surprisingly emotional, and my favorite stuff Vince does in the movie is the more dramatic scenes. I just thought the idea of like, because I always thought like if you could take Scrooge from the end of the story and Scrooge from the beginning of the story and then have them share a scene, the way they would butt heads is also just like, if someone comes in and tells you, hey, you're being an idiot, and you're like, no, I'm not. I don't make it, like, just there's dramatic and comedic conflict that comes from that is like emotionally relatable, but it's also just entertaining, because it's just you want conflict in movies, and a guy who's figured it all out having to be frustrated with the earlier version of himself is just, it's funny and dramatic, you know, and which is like, to me, like the best stuff to do.
Now, last question I have for you is, I read that you had this rule that if somebody watched the movie on mute, they should immediately think of it as a comedy. Was that an important—
Opposite. It's the opposite of that.
Opposite of that.
My rule was if they watch it on mute, they wouldn't know it was funny.
There you
So
go.
all the style elements of the movie, how people looked, how they dressed, is I want it to feel like a stylized thriller, and the humor wouldn't come from the visual side at all. And so because I didn't like, because that was kind of the like the broad thing that everyone who worked on it was under the thing. It's like, if we watch this scene on mute, people shouldn't know it's funny. And that sort of that became our stylistic rule for creating everything.
I love that. I love that. Well, look, BenDavid, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.